So a huge welcome back to our returning clickers and first-time workshoppers to the second session in this series of Networking Chameleon webinar workshops, Networking Made Easier. Here we are. Gosh, is it really just a month on from our first broadcast? Well, I hope that indeed those who have joined us previously are starting to find that in your own individual ways, your day-to-day, face-to-face networking is indeed getting easier and easier each day. But before we continue with the workshop itself, here's just a little bit of online housekeeping for you guys. The slide presentation, which we're going to be working our way through, is merely a guide. So please feel free to sit back, relax, and if you want to take notes, then fantastic. But remember, you'll have a link to access this to listen again and again and again if you wish after tonight's broadcast. So there's every opportunity to catch up on what you think you may have missed tonight. Can I also draw your attention to the little webinar grid that you hopefully have in front of you on your own screen? It's there for you to interact with, and there's a hand that waves. Go on, everybody, give a little wave. Anybody out there waving? I think Jacqueline's out there. I can see Michelle and Rochelle. Fantastic. Hi, guys. Hello. Just to walk you through that webinar grid, also in front of you, there's a post box too. So if you want to join in, send a comment, or generally play around with a few buttons, you can. And hopefully you can see the text message box. That's the one that sends over comments. And we are coming up to the watershed in about an hour, but any comments we can broadcast are always welcome. Finally, with all the techie stuff, we still have some extra time allocated for questions and answers. So if there's anything at all that you may want to ask during the hour, please feel free and I'll do my utmost to find an answer for you. So if you can all give another wave, thank you. Fantastic. We'll get going. Actually, talking of waving, keep your live hands free just for another moment, as I want to ask you a starter question. Hands up who thinks they're good at their business. Okay, now I can't actually see them, but hopefully all your hands are waving madly in the air. Right, now just one more question, guys, I promise you. Who thinks they're good at presenting on and about their business in any situation they may find themselves? Well, even without the power of X-ray vision, I'm guessing that not all of those hands are still waving back at me. And indeed, they're all not. There they are. Well, tonight's webinar is all about helping you get your message across to an audience of any size, be it a one-to-one, an open network situation, and importantly on presenting for your minute in a structured network meeting, even a keynote speaker presentation. But any presentation opportunity you're about to make on your business, however long, is totally and uniquely yours. And we're going to scratch the surface of this vital subject to help you, and just more importantly, to help others help you. For only when you've mastered the art of marketing yourself can your message be acted upon. So let's start right now by considering just how successfully you communicate in everyday business situations. Here's a few scenarios to mull over and ask yourself. How often have you left a message or instruction for someone, maybe a colleague or employee or a client or supplier, only for it to be wrongly or inadequately completed, or even worse, not followed through at all? Have you ever found yourself explaining the same message over and over again, repeating it in the vain hope of making yourself understood? Do you ever find yourself getting more and more frustrated with situations and with those you communicate with, as they never seem to get your point? Well, maybe one or all will loosely resonate with you, or you may recognize this in someone you work with. But let's think for a second. Who would you attribute the blame for the lack of this effective communication? The listener? Well, you're not alone, as the majority of people would also agree with you. But have you ever stopped to consider what being understood that could just possibly mean that your own communication skills may be letting you down? And yes, it's actually a very common misconception that being misunderstood is the listener's fault. Unfortunately, the consequences of blaming those who don't act on our instructions can lead to many a missed opportunity. And in a new networking situation, what a shame that you may be tempted just to leave it there, walking away believing that they just don't get you. Surely turning this back on ourselves and asking, am I getting my message across clearly, should be the next step. Even though we communicate within our every single hour of every day, subliminally or otherwise, the more we can start to analyze our own abilities to do so effectively, the better we can start to gain multitasking communication skills that will become a natural part of networking more effectively. So, we'll be looking at how your language, time, and confidence combine to support your messages. And it won't be any surprise to you to know that, as in everything, when it comes to presenting, it's all in the preparation. You really do have to become a grand master of planning the perfect moves, which in itself has a few stages. This planning plan used to be called pen and paper time, but even I'm being dragged out of my technology wilderness and have been known to now use my gadgetry. But whatever method you choose, you should start by jotting down your thoughts. Unless you have prepared some notes, I know they really shouldn't be the length of War and Peace, as they can either be sound bites or a one word mind jogger, but all in all, presenting, knowing your subject is going to be your starting point. Now, this may sound a little obvious, but actually, too many speakers rely on their blagging instincts to pull them through. And then, when faced with the presentation situation itself and standing facing their room full of keen listeners, well, their mind just goes blank, and even the most confident of presenters can suddenly wobble like a jelly. First ideas and thoughts, though, to start with, you'll need to ask yourself how you see your business model and what makes you stand out from your competitors. In the business world, this is, as I'm sure some of you will know, your USP, your unique selling point. Now, if you haven't, for whatever reason, identified your own yet, then this would be the perfect opportunity to start asking yourself what makes you and your service stand out from any other. And by finding your niche selling tool, use that as a springboard to honing in on the subject we'll be covering in a little while, the elevator pitch. But as I say, I'll be coming to the importance of using specific content within your pitches a little later. But with the preparation of your presentation, you need to think about what you are going to help the listener to learn about your business. As in essence, in presentation, it's truly just an education process about your business model. And can I just say to begin with, please try to avoid including the words reliable, experienced, good customer service, good timekeeping in any presentation, as this is simply turning your presentation time into a personal testimonial. And that, although these may be screamingly obvious, should really be taken for granted. And as in the mind of the listener, is a total and utter given. Let's face it, when was the last time you heard somebody stand up and say, "Hi, my name is Kirsty. I make terrible hats. I don't listen to my clients. I never answer the phone. I don't deliver on time. I will never want your feedback." So why state the obvious of the reverse? It's a given. You make great hats. It's a given. Listen to your clients. You do. Always answer messages and deliver great customer service. That all of these things are screamingly obvious. And if customer service is the only USP, well, believe me, everyone else's is too. But if it's your only, believe me, it's not unique. And that won't bring you any nearer to making an impact when speaking. So, if you're in business, take it from me, they already hope so, and they are simply waiting to find out about your services, products, and how you work, who you work with, and would wish to be introduced to, how you differ from others, what makes you, yes, you, here comes that word again, here makes you unique. So, how do you go about finding your USP? Now, listing the pros and cons about your business is another good thought process. Considering this from a historical view or a client view, do you have a story tucked away in your memory which illustrates just how you add value or how you have changed somebody's world in some way? Do you have any testimonials? Any previous outstanding clients or projects you can discuss? Is there an angle or a strand of your business that is your most successful to date? Think and analyze your work model and business plan. It will give you a clearer picture to find topics to talk about. But if this sounds like a tremendous amount to do before you even start talking to a room, well, yes, this is the most important of all the prep work for presenting. It's the deep fact finding analysis part of your networking journey. Find a nice, comfy couch, stretch out, let your mind wander into the realms of your business. Actually, it can feel a bit like therapy in a good way for your business. But the way to be able to describe and project your business model with ease and confidence may take your first few drafts to perfect. And of course, as your business model grows and your plans and aims adapt, so will your profiles and messages. But after getting things in order in depth initially, you'll find the whole process of digging out any exact message and using it to convey precisely what it is that you want to convey less daunting than you may ever imagined. Next, in the grand scheme of planning a presentation, is to consider the audience who you are actually addressing, as the language for a formal presentation will need a totally different approach than a more personal one to one. You may be surprised to know that there are some people who don't even make notes at a one to one. Now, that's called having a cup of coffee. But in truth, a structured one to one is a far more in depth investigation process of each other's business. But it should be conversational and open to questions. Most definitely go with that flow of conversation, as it should be a really good two-way street. Nobody could be expected to remember everything in that meeting, so getting memorable messages across is vital for the other to make notes. Telling stories here is absolutely vital, as in any relationship building process, you have to get to know the person. So your messages will want to paint a picture of your business and you. As obviously in a shorter space of time, the punchy sound bites are appropriate, but this would feel more awkward over lunch or even a coffee table. And likewise, that follow up meeting on a firmer footing of longer lasting trust will, of course, be yet another layer of language because you've got to know the person. So take time, give yourself enough diary time to truly ensure that you have a clear idea of what it is your business is going to say about you. You'll find that winning move, and you know you've done everything you possibly can to achieve checkmate and become the champion of champions at starting your case and communicating and getting your message across in any situation. It's all in the prep. As you gather, there are many different kinds of networking situations you can find yourself in. You may have to think on your feet in some of them, but the one thing that will stand you firmly in good stead is having those few prepared and mentally secured notes prepared, locked away in your comfort zone, so you can bring out and use effectively whenever needed. In sharing these ideas about different approaches to each type of pitch and promotion situation that you may encounter, you may have noticed that one thread running through them all is time. The importance of time and how to use it effectively in any presentation is the key to opening the door to a whole new level of untapped opportunity. Imagine this, if you will, that the fairy godmother of networking has granted you the power of having hours and hours of extra marketing time to use exactly as you wish. Endless days of just simply promoting your business with not a care in the world, without anything else that may distract you. Well, that anything else, well, shall we just call that life? Yes, life can sometimes get in the way. But in reality, aren't our businesses also our life? And in reality, as busy as we are, we have to find time to make time. And at this point, I'd like to state that although I keep asking Santa every year, I obviously haven't been a good enough girl, as I still haven't received the only thing I can imagine that could create an extra day in the week, a clone. And sorry to break the news, folks, there is no networking fairy to grant us wishes. And I don't want to upset you any more, but there isn't an Easter bunny, a tooth fairy, and I'm sorry there's no money tree. So making the most of the time that we do have is all we can possibly hope to do to best of our ability and make the most of every situation. So to start with, it's vital to look upon any room of eager listeners as your new apprentice sales team, who simply need to be trained, educated, if you will, about their new client, and that client is you. And that's what you will be, your unpaid sales team who, given enough knowledge about you and your work, and importantly, know you well enough to care, will without question go out of their way to help you build your business. And why? Because just like any good relationship, a networking relationship is built on give and take and time. Actually, I like to think it's time to give and give because I found in my networking world, if you help enough people, you know what? They simply want to help you in return. And there is the essence of what I believe to be the key to networking. If nothing else, take it that you can only get back what you give. If you have yet to include that in your grand plan, indeed start considering how to help others from tonight, folks. So, in helping others to know about your business, what will they need to know in your presentation? So, I'm going to start with some set presentation pointers which relate to your own personal pitch of your business. And it's mostly timed at around 60 seconds. Ooh, I can hear the ground shaking from across the airways, and even the mention of a 60 seconds. No, seriously. Actually, it can be the longest 60 seconds of your life, or if, like me, you constantly wonder how you're going to fit it all in 60 seconds, remember, as in all things, there is a structure, a process, and within that structure, enough flexibility to add a personal touch, a memory hook, but most importantly, leave the listener with enough info to go away with and start those brain cells thinking about how they can start to help you. Notice I said start. So many misconceptions about results in networking are because there's an expectation of an instant result. It's totally unrealistic to expect anyone to be able to help you in business just because they've discovered what you do. Yes, it's again, yes, my three best pals, good old know, like, and trust. They get everywhere, folks. Well, here it is, folks. It's the most interesting of examples of how to make the most of an unexpected networking opportunity. It's the elevator pitch. Now, if you looked in the textbooks, an elevator pitch would be called an elevator statement. It's a short summary used to quickly and simply define a person, profession, product, service, organization, or event, and its value proposition. The name elevator pitch reflects the idea that it should be possible to deliver the summary in the time span of an elevator ride, or approximately 30 seconds to 2 minutes. The term itself comes from a scenario of an accidental meeting with someone important in the elevator. If the conversation inside the elevator in those few seconds is interesting and value adding, the conversation will continue after the elevator ride or end in exchange of business card or a scheduled meeting. And actually, a lot of experienced networkers commonly rehearse and use elevator pitches to get their point across quickly. The importance of having a few different presenting moves up your networking sleeve can be important. For instance, you may well be called to simply give a one liner in a meeting, a simple introduction. And this can be a skill all on its own to be able to deliver a message about yourself in an instant, but still make an impact. Should you be standing in a lift alone with Bill Gates or Richard Branson or your own personal ideal hero, the dream of a contract, how do you actually spark enough interest in those few seconds so that you could possibly continue that chance meeting outside the elevator? Hence, it's called an elevator pitch. Yes, the idea was first launched in the US of A, but somehow a lift pitch doesn't quite have the same ring about it, I think. But me, well, I just love challenging myself to create a one liner, a memory hook, a tagline, whatever you like to call them. The grab you moment of a one chance meeting is a chance that you could not only lead to a bigger moment, but is the basis of any bigger presentation. As having a memory hook to leave your audience with is a vital tool in the presentation box. Getting remembered is the key. Use your memory hook when you first meet a new contact, and you can throw it in at the beginning and the end of any presentation, as the clue is in the name. It's got to be memorable, and you must also remember to use it. So, we've covered the elevator pitch and the importance of analysing your business to know what it is you wish to say. Now, to flip the coin and take a look at what a listener may need to know and take in, as thinking of your message from a listener's perspective is the best way to experience and hear a huge amount of networking pennies dropping. We can often be consumed by our own take on a room, and the whole workshop tonight has been geared towards true chameleon values, being able to adapt your style of presentation to a room of 100 or a cosy one to one. Oh, and I can't not throw in one of my favourite messages to get across. Imagine this, you've been invited to a meeting. So, what time does the meeting start? Actually, any meeting starts as soon as two people are in the room. The networking starts, the fact finding starts, and in some small way, your presenting then also begins. You're setting the scene for more to come. So, again, using a memory hook in an introduction to create interest and, yes, get remembered. But what should you include in a 60 seconds? Well, firstly, and probably more obviously you and your business name for starters. And I know, but you would be absolutely surprised. You know who you are and what your business name is, but speak clearly by stating your name and your business. Someone may just be hearing that for the very first time, and they may just have missed it. So never get out of the habit of saying your name and your business. Secondly, say what you're looking for. And here, when I'm going to have to watch the microphone levels looking at my techie team, please don't use the words anything or anyone. Being specific helps. Tips are coming along. Just to say, be warned, they're coming along later, but please, not anything or anyone. Finally, your passion should always shine through in a presentation. Lord knows if you don't have fire enough to love your business, you can't expect the listener to. And I would always advise and advocate new presenters to write down and take a presentation with them. But do remember that sometimes having written notes can mean that we get to sound a bit like a robot and we end up not being listened to at all. So, any story that you can tell from the heart that means you possibly don't have to have your head buried in a presentation paper will, in time and with confidence, become the greatest asset to your 60-second presentation. But in fairness, until you've actually had a fair old chance of speaking about your own business on a regular basis, you will find you won't be so reliant on that paper, and that will be your own personal presenting journey. Now, I have to confess that I have no other reason for this slide other than I saw it and thought of the most productive and hard-working of little beasts using their time so wisely, knowing their place and working as a team. I remember once hearing the phrase, think of your fellow networkers as a team of colleagues in your own business. You are obviously the CEO of your business, and your closest networkers are your team in the field who are out there working on your behalf. Just think of yourself as the queen bee, and you are sending the worker bees off back to the sweetest nectar. Well, be glad you're not a drone. Imagine, if you will, that each time you present to the room, you are educating your own personal buzzy bees and arming them with enough information so that they know who, what, and how they can find you that blooming connection. Worth saying again, if you're amongst those who have built a good, strong, and trusting relationship, that is basically all they ever want to be able to do to help you, and giving them enough information with your ideal prescription for fact finding and seeking out some of their trusted contacts, then your ears will be buzzing and you'll be waiting for their call. It's up to you to instruct your team and arm them with the ability. Truly, when you do have a team of networkers who are out there as your support network, well, even the newest of connections has to start somewhere, and there's no better start than to ask, how can I help you? The power of being specific. Well, I better get straight to the point then on this, but in all seriousness, we've hopefully all got the message about how important time is. And I often think, after listening to a variety of presentations over the past years, that there are those who truly don't appreciate how important every single second counts when it comes to using up your presentation time. Interesting fact number, Lord, I've probably stopped counting, but this is officially the most important to date. In a networking group meeting, say a meeting that meets every month to present to your fellow members, you will have just 12 minutes a year to officially spread the word about your business. 12 minutes a year. Even in a weekly group, that's less than an hour, a whole hour a year to explain, inform, and inspire, educate your fellow networkers on your business. So now perhaps that's why people encourage you to book those one-to-ones and to involve yourself as much as self-promotion as possible and in as many ways you can. And to use your time wisely. If you have a minute to speak, then why use 30 seconds and sit down? You are losing half of that precious time, and you've just already heard how precious it is. I was recently at a meeting where a key speaker stood up for their 60-second monthly spot and said, I won't bore you with anything now as I've got my whole 10-minute presentation to come, and sat down. Well, actually, he had a whole 11 minutes, and what a missed opportunity that was. Don't miss any opportunity. As I hinted earlier, and I do get a bit soapboxy about this, but please, please try not to use the words anyone or anything in any particular presentation. My heart sighs when I hear somebody say they are looking for anyone. Really? Really? Yes, the red rag to this chameleon is that I am looking for anyone and everyone because I really, really, really want to help you. But I can't spend time looking for everyone and everything in the hope of someone wanting to meet you. But sometimes, as I said, a story illustrates better just what I mean. So let's listen to a story about exactly what I mean about being specific. Okay, so about 5, 6 years ago, I had the privilege of being able to visit a few networking groups. Some of them I was creating, some I was supporting, but all of them had members whose experience of networking was wide ranging, and therefore they tended to learn a lot from each other. But this morning, we all learnt a huge lesson of actually seeing the power of being specific in action. Let me set the scene. Amongst these members at the networking table, all 30 odd of them, there were two guys who were actually good friends, as well as networkers, and well, they happened to find themselves sitting next to each other that very morning. The 60-second presentations were going round the table, and it came to the member, say, call him number one, whose profession he was a window replacement company. And in his specific request, and boy, this morning was he specific, he asked for the members to look for schools and colleges who are having their windows updated over the summer break. He was even so specific as to ask for a contact connected to the King Solomon School, as he'd heard they definitely were putting work out to tender soon. At this point, the man in the seat next to him, his friend and fellow networker, almost fell off his seat, as that was the very school he was chairman of the PTA. And he indeed knew that they were looking to put a huge window replacement job out to tender that term. So he duly agreed to meet him afterwards, take his details, obviously put his name forward for that particular job that he didn't know he was looking for. And the opportunity was there. The work, I believe, eventually went to Mr. Window Guy number one, and how the room learnt a few lessons there. Lesson number one, not only be specific, but name a name if you can. If you really want to meet someone, say that name. You just never know who might know someone who might know someone. And again, if they know you well enough, they may well be able to give you an introduction. Number two, don't presume that you know everything about your fellow networkers. Who knew about that school connection? It took that spark, it took that moment for him to switch on that light bulb. And it just goes to show, and yes, I'm going to mention my three favourite words again: know, like, and trust. How well do you really know each other's lives outside your business? And number three, take time to consider what exactly you are going to say. Just by being specific, you might just hit that spot. While I'm here, if I just remembered looking at the clock before we go on, yeah, we do have time. Another little exercise I used to use to groups to illustrate the power of being specific. Okay, so this is going to be interesting because, as I say, I can't actually see you, but I'm going to be asking you some questions and just give me the answers here. So I'm going to be looking for a DVD. Anyone got any ideas? A DVD. Shake of a head for my technical team here. Okay, I'm looking for a DVD for my nephew. No? Okay. My nephew likes monsters. Okay, my nephew really likes green monsters. Oh, yeah, well, I think. Okay, so I want to buy a Shrek DVD. But can you see, if I'd actually said I'm looking for a Shrek DVD, how much more time I would have saved? Go straight to the point, guys. So, a huge pointer there. The two ingredients to a good presentation is use your time, be specific with your time. It's the key. So now, folks, we come to the part in the webinar where some of you are sent in questions, and that's fabulous. And hopefully, we're going to help those. These questions will help you all. And if you have any questions about this evening, do send them in. If we have time at the end, we'll go with them. The first question is from Diane. Thanks, Diane. Diane wishes to know, what is a tagline and how should I use it? And that is a great question, actually. Skipping back to that elevator pitch, and this one-liner should have given you a couple of ideas, Diane, and it's invaluable for getting the listener's attention, getting your message across in a few seconds, getting remembered. Hence, it's often called a memory hook. And it can be a play on words, and how I love playing around with words. And if one of my listeners will allow me, she has the best memory hooks I've ever heard. Well, it must be, because I've known this person for years and I've always remembered it. And it's the kind that makes the point, really. She is a holistic therapist and she rubs people up the right way. I also know of a florist who says, when you send flowers, send hours. There is a certain cookie queen I know very well who has the memory hook of her edibles are incredibles. So you can see there's a theme of wordplay here, but it's basically a catchy phrase that you can feel comfortable enough to say. The key being if you remember it, then hopefully everybody else will. How should you use it? That's also part of what you asked, Diane. Many ways. You could and you should have it on your business card, guys. You can have it under your signature, on your emails, and paperwork, any paperwork they use. But in any presentation, never let an opportunity go by. Say, as you introduce yourself or meeting someone, introduce yourself with it. Get remembered for the right reason. Hopefully, you'll find your perfect tagline. It may be right under your nose. Actually, that sounds like a good one for a barber. Um, but there are websites and books to help you find that perfect one-liner. Never underestimate how important it can be. If you want to stand out from all the rest, you do have to have every trick up your networking sleeve to make it happen and get remembered. Your clients may know you are, but your next new clients have a choice out there. What makes them choose you? Well, it's your choice. You may never know, but until you've covered all bases of basic tools of the trade, you may be missing that one thing that will catch their attention, hence the memory hook. Standing on a corner with a megaphone will get you noticed, but being remembered is another thing altogether. Okay, I have another question. This is from Jack. How do I fit everything I want to say into a quick presentation? What if I get cut off and leave something out? Well, hopefully we've covered a little bit about preparation and planning. Actually, what I haven't covered in this, do practice out loud. I have been known to use a good car journey to think out loud and practice a few pointers, and also use the bathroom mirror to look into. No, seriously, do. If you're looking into a mirror and you see someone looking back at you, apparently subliminally, it's a really good thing. It makes you think you're not alone speaking. So that's a good one to practice to speaking. Also, record yourself. Putting yourself under a 60-second timer situation. Time yourself endlessly. You soon kind of develop a 60-second body clock. It's amazing how you do. Oh, and if you find you're not fitting anything in, you probably didn't need to have it there in the first place. Less is more in a 60 seconds. Or another question, do you have any tips? As I'm a very nervous talker, I think I'm shouting, but been told I often can't be heard. Well, okay, again, it's all to do with practice and confidence. And well, actually, speaking out loud, tip at the end of the last question would definitely help you start speaking to as many people as you possibly can. In open situations, projection of the voice can take as much rehearsal as your voice can muster. I think somebody once told me you should try singing along with your favourite song. Another car thing to do. This is a way to be in a positive and happy mood. Lets your vocal cords soar, actually helps you build a lilt to your voice too, because lyrical lilts jump up and down. But mostly, do try practicing speaking out loud to yourself, your family, or someone who will let you know if they can't hear you. You may think you're shouting. I've never heard anybody be told to be quieter in a presentation. So shout out your message. It really will make a difference. Okay, we don't have any more questions, but actually, this does leave me just enough time before wrapping up this month's webinar to say hopefully the benefits of gaining presentation skills or honing and toning those you already have are obviously all in the practice. And so, before we go, I have a challenge for you. Tonight, I'd like to invite two willing networkers to come and join me next week here at Chameleon Towers. Come and be part of the hour to present your business in a broadcast and put all they have to the test in broadcasting their 60 seconds live to the world. If you fancy getting your message across over the airwaves next month, I may actually have to work out the exact details on how to do this, but yes, I'm told we could definitely have some guests to join over the coming months. So all that's left for me to do is to say thank you for joining me tonight, everyone. It's been fantastic to have you here. Looking forward to having you with me on the next one. And just keep networking, folks, but keep networking live.